by driver the number 22 Shell Pennzoil Ford, Joey Logano. If you have questions, raise your hand. We'll bring you the mic.
Hi. Trying to.
No?
This seat
Switch seats?
Switch the seats. That was really high. All right. I fit better over here.
Questions for Joey? Jeff?
It just seemed like, I could be wrong, but compared to other practice sessions on mile and a halves and stuff so far this year, it seemed like everybody was more jumping into drafting, just like kind of the heck with single car stuff. Like, is it pretty much the mentality now that, you know, you're going to be handling around other cars a lot, so you just got to work on that from the start?
I think so, yeah. You know, I think everyone just realizes that you're going to have a lot of wide open time here, and the more wide open time you have, the more the draft will come into play, and you'll have to be around other cars for those reasons. So the difference between clean air and dirty air balance-wise is quite a difference, because the speed's faster for one, and you don't have as much downforce. So if you go out there and you're easy wide open by yourself, well, what are you learning, right? But when you get into traffic, like you're going to race, then at least you can start working on your car. It makes it more challenging to work on your car because it's hard to get a consistent run. You know, other racetracks, or in the past, the way we've done things is you want to get clean air, so you at least have a clean read of what's going on. You would say, well, I was in traffic, so maybe the change didn't do this or not. Well, now it's like, well, I'm in traffic, but every scenario is a little different. Like, I had a car closer to me this time. I had 3 cars in front of me instead of the 6 cars in front of me. And, you know, you got a lot of variables to try to work yourself through. And that's challenging. It's pretty challenging out there to work on your race car, but it's kind of the only way to do it.
Who keeps track of that? Like, do you have engineers going, oh, well, this run you only have 3 guys in front of you, versus, like, it's got to be, do you have to keep track of that in this?
I think you have somewhat of an idea, right? I mean, I can see my windshield, like, it's clear, so I can see through it, which is good. And so I'm able to kind of, you know, I try to put myself in the position that I want to be to try to get a decent read. But it's hard to do because a car will come in or a couple cars will pull out, and all of a sudden you're in a different situation. So you kind of got to take it from a global view, like, well, yeah, it helped a little here. And, you know, it's just kind of hard to really pinpoint where exactly in the corner and be as precise as we used to be.
Jared?
Sure, Jordan, kickingthetires.net. I got 2, actually. One, looking at the All-Star race for next weekend, your thoughts on that, and any strategies going into that competition?
The strategy for the All-Star race is always all or nothing, right? Get $1 million on the line. That's all that matters. I don't know who finished second there last year. So you go for it. You got nothing to lose, right? You have no points. It's such a fun race for that reason, because if something happens, you go, oh, well, and you move on to the next one. You don't have the penalty that comes with it, with not having the points that you lost. So, yeah, you go for it. For me, it's one of the most fun races, maybe the most fun race of the year for me. I really enjoy it. Because everyone's so aggressive. Everybody's the same way. You know, everyone has the same mentality. They hang that $1 million carrot out in front of you, and we all kick it up a notch, and that's pretty fun.
And the follow-up question is, this past week, NASCAR changed the 3 tracks for air ducts on the car, Pocono, Homestead, and Darlington. Your thoughts on that, and what you think it'll do to the action on the track?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. We just haven't been using much brake, you know, and to try to keep the rules the same throughout all the series. I sit in some of these meetings where they talk about this stuff, and just to try to keep it all the same instead of having some with, you know, brake ducts, drag ducts, and you have more parts and pieces, and it just costs the teams more money, right? And you have different development cycles, and because you have kind of 2 different aero packages in a way. So you might as well, if we're not using the brake like we kind of thought we would, then we might as well take that out and keep that the same. So I think it's a good move by NASCAR there, just to keep it simple. Probably saves the teams a couple bucks. Probably not a whole bunch, but a couple. So it's directionally the right way.
Lee Spencer, Racing Boys. A lot of drivers complained about not being able to pass last week, but you were able to come from the back of the pack and get back up to the front again. What do you think the difference was for the 22 compared to some of the guys that really got mired in traffic?
Yeah, it was really an execution day. You know, we got back to 6th or 7th, but in all honesty, that's as good as we were. You know, I can't say that as far as the cars around us, we were much better than that. Perfect day, maybe we finished 4th, but we had a pretty well executed day, and we finished 6th or 7th. You know, we made that pit call to go out and get a stage win, which I thought was worth it. And we paid the penalty by going back to 24th or so. And it took us a while to get back to 6th or 7th. We definitely needed cautions and good restarts, good pit stops. We needed to execute to get our way back up there because it's going to be hard to move your way up there. But we slowly picked off one here, a couple there on a restart, and next thing you know, you're in a decent spot. So, you know, it was challenging, but, you know, I feel like for us, we did our jobs as far as executing throughout the day, and that's what picked up positions as the race went.
And you mentioned the All-Star race. Would you wreck a teammate to win?
No, you can't do that. You can't just go out and wreck it. Really anyone, because you're going to pay the price. Believe me, I know. So I don't. I think it's probably not a wise decision. I've always said moving someone is one thing. Wrecking someone's something different. So that's kind of my opinion on it. And I think you got to race that race the same way you would any other race because it's the same competitors. Yeah, we're more aggressive, but it doesn't mean you're going to go out there and just dump people.
Nick Bromberg, Yahoo Sports. Chase said because of the conditions tomorrow night, he's thinking that the field will end up being a little closer together. Do you agree with that? And if so, does more cars being closer together then give the opportunity for the drafting effect designed to kind of overtake that dirty air balance and shift it more in the direction of you being able to use the draft to pass people rather than getting stuck with the dirty air?
Yep, you're right on it. Yeah, that's exactly how it's going to be. Cooler temperatures will bring the pack closer. You know, the cars today in practice, I think it was surprising to a lot of people how much we were lifting actually in that draft. The cars are really sliding all over the place when you're in dirty air. And the temperature's a little warmer right now. The sun's out. And when you get to a night race, it's going to bring the pack closer together. And it's funny, it used to be the other way around. You know, when we were lifting a lot, we wanted the track temperature to be hot and the track rubber up a lot so the track would get really wide and we can move around and do all the stuff. And now you want it cooler so you're more wide open. And that's what brings the cars closer and more wide open time, kind of like you were saying.
Jeff?
This might be stupid, so I'm just trying to figure out if this could have any connection. So since you're talking about how it's cooler and it's going to be more like probably the races in the fall, like this is probably going to be the last race that handles with cooler temperatures because you would think after this, you know, the 600 is going to be hot. You would think by the time we get there. And all these other mile and a halves of summer, Kentucky, Chicago, or whatever, it's going to be hot, hot, hot. So it's not going to be anything like this. Is there any chance that like this race, given the cooler temperatures, would be like used as a reference point for the playoff races this fall? Just because, like, you're not really going to apply it to like a Kentucky, right? Would you?
Yeah, not really. You know, yes, it's. You know, I think this race has some similarities to what Charlotte may be like. You know, even though it's cooler, we're still lifting. You're going to lift when we go to Charlotte. You know, we've kind of lifted at every racetrack with this 550 package. You know, about everywhere. You know, even California, we were lifting a fair amount. Texas, you're lifting in one corner at least. You know, so you're going to have that piece of it. You know, Kentucky is a place that you're definitely going to lift a lot into 3. You know, so you know, everyone's going to be probably bringing some downforce to that racetrack. But this track here, I was thinking that you're going to have kind of a mixed bag, kind of like a Michigan. Like you might have some guys that think handling's important, and some guys think that getting the drag out of the car is important, and maybe somewhere in the middle is where you want to be. Maybe shifted one way or the other is where we want to be. So I think those are the things we'll learn here this week is how far one way or the other do we want to be when you come to a racetrack like Kansas compared to a place like Texas or California, Vegas, Kentucky, name them. I think each track you're going to kind of want a little bit of something different depending on how much you're into gas.
Bob?
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. There's been some talk this week about whether, you know, NASCAR is kind of listening to what the feedback they get from drivers. I'm curious if you feel like they are listening. Do you feel like that maybe they take input but maybe just choose different directions? And then also, as now having won a championship, do you feel you have any bigger of a voice with NASCAR? To answer your question, yes, I do feel like they listen to us. As drivers, I say us as drivers. But I also realize that we are not the only players in this game. There's plenty of other members that have a invested interest in what we do. You think of, our fans for one, right? It has to be a good race. It has to look good. It has to be good passing. Our TV partners will weigh in on that, right? Our media members will weigh in on that. The team owners will weigh in on it. And yes, the drivers weigh in on that. Do I feel like the drivers have a great view of what's happening? Yeah, probably better than anyone, right? Because you can do all these CFD studies and show me all these squiggly lines, but there's nothing like real life, right? There's nothing like until you get out there and you actually feel it. And there's only 40 people that really know what it feels like out there, right? And so, I feel like, the drivers really have a good opinion of what's going on, but we also have to realize, almost take a step back and look at it from a global view and say what's best for our sport. And there is a lot of good metrics going on right now, which you guys have all seen them, as far as, whether it's ratings or approval and all that stuff. Everything seems to be trending the right way. Dover was a little different, but it wasn't awful. I mean, there was still some good racing back and forth. There's a lot of different things. It's just different. So to answer that, I do feel like our voice is heard. I just feel like it's not everything, and it probably shouldn't be everything because there's other people that need to be heard as well, or other groups, I guess you should say.
Anything else for Joey? No? Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks.